Think about the last time you looked for something on your phone. You unlocked it, opened an app, scrolled, tapped, maybe even searched. Now imagine this. What if that information just appeared in the right place, at the right time, anchored in the exact object or space it was relevant to? You didn't have to pull it up, it met you. Now that's not a description for a product, that's a description of where tech has been headed for a while now, and we're closer to that moment than most people want to believe. Every major shift in computing has followed the same basic pattern. Technology gets smaller, it gets more personal, and it gets more invisible. The computer mainframe used to live in a room and require trained specialists to operate. The personal computer then came to your desk and asked for basic computer literacy. Then the smartphone came to your pocket and asked for nothing more than a thumb. Each transition closed the distance between the human and the machine. Each new device expanded who could participate. Each one created an entirely new industry built on top of the last. And this is not a coincidence. It's a trajectory of technology, and trajectories, once established, are very hard to stop. And here's where I think people get confused. Spatial computing is not a single device. It's not the Apple Vision Pro. It's not a headset. It's not augmented reality or virtual reality or any one thing. Spatial computing is what happens when digital information stops living on a flat surface and starts existing in three-dimensional space, anchored to real objects, responding to real environments, and interacting with real people. When a surgeon uses a patient's CT scan floating above the operating table and can rotate it with their hands, that's spatial computing. When a factory technician gets a live overlay on broken equipment showing exactly which bolt to turn, that's spatial computing. When a student walks through a digital reconstruction of ancient Rome for a history class, also spatial computing. The screen is not going away, but information is getting a new home, our environment. Now, the technology to do this at scale, fast processors, high-resolution optics, precise spatial tracking, lightweight form factors, has only recently crossed the threshold from research lab into reality. Vision OS, mixed reality headsets, spatial anchors, and AR frameworks. And if you're paying attention, there are a lot of spatial computing applications being applied to everyday devices, like liquid glass on iPhone, iPad, and MacBook. Hundreds of millions of people on flat screens are being trained in depth, translucency, and floating elements without ever putting on an Apple Vision Pro. Apple is priming its entire installed base for spatial interfaces. The infrastructure for this era is being built right now, and the audience is being trained for it at the same time. Now, the organizations that understand this and start building on it now are the ones that will define what work, education, and communication look like in 10 years. The ones that will wait will be adapting to someone else's decisions. That's been true of every platform transition. It was true in 1995 with the web, true in 2008 with mobile, and it's true again right now with spatial computing. Spatial computing is not a gadget category. It's not a niche application. It's the next platform, the next place where software gets written, where businesses get built, and where human attention lives. To understand where it's going, you have to understand how we got here. And that means understanding the three distinct areas of how humans and computers have related to each other in the specific moment we're living in right now. Now, every few decades, the entire relationship between humans and computers resets. It's not an upgrade, not a faster version of the same thing. It's a reset where the rules of what computing is, who can use it, what it costs, and what it can do all change at once. We've been through two of these resets already, and we're already living inside the third one right now. And the pattern of how each one unfolds tells us almost everything we need to know about what comes next. The first era runs roughly from the 70s through the 2000s, desktop computing, command lines, then graphical interfaces, the mouse and the keyboard, windows and icons and file folders on a screen. This era asks something of you. Literacy. You have to learn the system. You have to understand file structures and applications and what software it was even for. The computer rewarded expertise and punished ignorance. But here's what it gave in exchange. Power. People who learned to use these systems could do things that were impossible before. They could run processed data, write documents, run calculations, communicate across distances. The barrier was high, but the payoff was real. This was computing as a skill, something you studied, practiced, and got better at over time. The second era starts in 2007. One device, one gesture, everything changed. Mobile computing didn't just move the computer into your pocket, it removed a barrier. You didn't need to understand technology to use an iPhone. You needed a thumb and a desire. That's it. The second era made computing ambient. It was always there, always available. The computer stopped being a place you went to and became the thing you carried. And then, in a very real sense, it became a habit, one that 3 billion people now share. The design philosophy of this area was reduction. Strip everything down, make it feel instant, make the interface disappear so the task is all that remains. That's why touchscreens feel so natural. They minimize the tool between you and the action. But this second era had a built-in ceiling, flat glass, 2 dimensions, a 5 to 7 inch rectangle of light that you hold in your hand. Once the form factor matured, the innovation slowed, and that slowdown is exactly what creates the opening for what comes next. The third era doesn't have an established name yet. Some call it spatial computing. Here's what it actually is: computing that exists in the world, in our environment, rather than a surface. In era 1, the computer was at your desk. In era 2, it was in your pocket. In era 3, it's everywhere, overlaid on physical reality, embedded in objects around you, responsive to your body and your environment in real time. The interface in era 3 isn't a screen you look at, it's the space you inhabit. And that distinction from viewing to inhabiting is the thing that changes everything downstream. Work, education, communication, entertainment, all of them get rebuilt on top of this shift. And that's not speculation, that's what's happened every time before. 3 eras, each one smaller, more personal, more invisible, each one expanding who can participate and what's possible. Now the question worth sitting with is, if the first era rewarded literacy and the second era rewarded immediacy, what does the third era reward? The answer starts with something surprising. It starts with biology. The reason spatial computing feels so natural, even before most people have ever tried it, it comes down to how the brain actually processes the world. If you want to dive deeper into what we just covered, this video is brought to you by the first edition of Spatial Computing. We wrote this book to break down this complex emerging field clearly to help you stay ahead of the curve on this new frontier of life-changing technology. Bring your work, your passions, and your business into the future. This book serves as the perfect reference guide to help explain these concepts to your own clients, colleagues, or students. Your book also comes with an executive curriculum that you can use to train your personal or enterprise AI model, creating a massive and evidence-based advantage for your spatial workflow. Both physical and digital copies are available right now at spatialapex.co.